morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the President's Town Hall. My name is Sandra Banks, and I am delighted to serve as Vice President, University Relations here at the University, but also as your MC this morning. And it is truly wonderful to see such a large crowd out this morning, especially in the front rows, not just the Executive Council who has to be here, but also those of you that were smart enough to get your winter tires on early. Great to have all of you here. This town hall has become a fixture in our fall calendar at Waterloo, and a highly anticipated one given the early sign-up numbers and obviously those of you who are in the room today. For those of you joining via live stream, welcome to you. It's also great to have you joining us. I think we all know that this is such an excellent opportunity for the campus community to come together and discuss the current and future state of the university with our president. Public gatherings like this town hall are an important part of our culture and offer a valuable forum for sharing key updates and addressing matters that are important to you. This year, the town hall will cover many areas, including highlights from the university's new strategic plan covering the period 2020 to 2025, connecting imagination with impact. I count myself very fortunate to be part of this amazing place, especially as we come together to discuss Waterloo's collective successes over the past year and how we will navigate our way forward. Shortly, I will invite our President and Vice Chancellor to the podium to share both his update, his annual update, and his thought leadership for the University of Waterloo. But first, a word about the agenda and format. Of course, we will begin with the President's opening remarks, followed by a question and answer session. And for those of you that will be hungry later, we will be serving a luncheon immediately following the town hall in the back two rooms of Fed Hall. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce President Hamdullahpur, President and Vice Chancellor at the University of Waterloo. President.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and good morning, everybody. So wonderful to see you all here, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, but let me first remind myself and everybody to acknowledge who we are, to acknowledge the land, our culture, and history, and pay our respects to the elders, past and present, of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations people along the Grand River. I'm grateful for your presence here. It is fantastic to see so many of you here. This is a point of great pride and excitement and reminder to myself and to all my colleagues who are sitting here, vice presidents and deans, as to why it's so important to engage in such an active and fulfilling conversation with our colleagues at the university. Your presence here today, again, a huge affirmation that this institution belongs to all of us, and you take a very, very important part in advancing our institution. And we will continue doing that as, again, as Sandra mentioned, this annual town hall has become another avenue of really open, sincere communication with so many of you. Throughout the year, I had many opportunities to talk to groups of people or talk about things at Senate and board meetings, but never have an opportunity to have a conversation with a group of this size. So thank you again for being here. It is a fabulous, from where I'm sitting, a wonderful picture. And I know there are many of you behind screens that I can't see you, you can't see me, and thank you again for doing that. I'm going to start with a very brief overview, and I believe it's important for us, as much as we connect ourselves to the things that we really want to do, not really fix things up, but do things that are very much congruent with our nature, with our DNA, with our innovative character, but also at the same time to acknowledge and celebrate some of the great things that been happening here at this university, and unfortunately we have only enough time to cover a short period and only a few examples of what they are. Let me start. I think it will be quite important for us to start with orientation, because this is the time some sort of renewal process starts. The renewal is thousands of new, bright, exciting minds come to the university, and again, this year was no exception. What I want to focus on, however, is hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, faculty, staff, students, who take part in our orientation, who make this university a fabulously welcoming, exciting place, not only to our students, but their supporters, their parents. I should tell you that I've heard from so many parents, people here who brought their children to the University of Waterloo, how fabulous, how welcoming it was, that they came to the campus with a certain element of anxiety, and they're leaving with a great sense of comfort and confidence. Thank you again. You don't have to do any of those. You volunteer to do it. And that's, again, part of who we are. You don't have to sit where you are today. You choose to be here. Again, it's part of our engagement with one understanding that this is our institution, these are our students, and I'm going to play an important part in their education and experience here at the University of Waterloo. My job is this, but my footprint at this university is much, much wider than what my job is. Then we go to another point of renewal, that's convocation. Again, it's an unbelievable joy to celebrate the successes of many, many students at convocation, as we did again this year in June and later in October. Then there's another part. It's a reminder to me to begin with what this is all about. So thanks to a number of people, I do undergraduate class visits. I don't remember exactly because I get so excited, whether 11 or 13 of them I did. I go and spend 10, 15 minutes with an undergraduate class. And again, as a reminder to us that, hey, this is where the real action takes place. And this is where we want to see them, how they are doing. So I just wanted to share 3 tremendously important elements of joy that you are all taking a very important part, regardless of where your offices are. At the same time, there's another very important part, and this is the scholarly aspect of our institution. And again, this is a very short, small sample of what's happening at this institution. Fine arts professor Jessica Thompson won the Ontario Early Researcher Award. This is the fine arts department at the University of Waterloo winning a very prestigious Ontario Early Researcher Award, because she thought of using urban sound to really bring new definitions of what urbans look like, urban environments look like. And those are the kind of very dynamic, innovative initiatives here that enable us to combine what's happening in those classrooms and what's happening at our scholarly endeavors. We celebrated something spectacular this year. I want you to think of it for one second. You don't have to be an astronomer. You don't have to be a scientist to understand this whole bloody thing called the black hole, okay? You hear about it right from first day, and black hole, you have fantasies around your head. And first time, we have seen an actual picture of this. And so proud that one of our colleagues here took a very, very leadership role in the team that made that possible. It's a fantastic moment of pride for us, just like we did last year with our Nobel Prize. We have a faculty colleague in mathematics who has now developed a computational model of a human kidney. Can you imagine? After having developed an artificial, actual, physical kidney, not by her, but by others, but now you can use various drugs and understand how kidney reacts to those drugs. So these are like space-age type of things, and they are all happening here at the University of Waterloo. This is how we connect our classrooms to the highest level of scholarship, And this is the reason why this is so important to understand that they are all happening at the same time, at the same place, and they are not divided by walls. It was also a great moment of pride for us, for the university, to be chosen as the first stop for the HEFORSHE Get Free tour. You all know, and I am immensely proud to be the only university president from Canada and one of the 10 around the world to really push the boundaries of HEFORSHE commitments, and so proud that we've been able to do this. And as a result, the UN Women chose to start that tour here at the University of Waterloo. Again, it was a fabulous acknowledgement of who we are. We had more excitement at our university. We have 2 brand new deans started, Sheila Ager and Lily Du. Again, I want to just a few seconds how important it is to be willing to accept these very challenging leadership positions. And the fact that they each wanted to make a difference in very well-established faculties. And I'm grateful that you came forward, and we're delighted to have our 2 new deans. In case you haven't met them, they're sitting right there. You have their pictures, so you can find that. Another thing, the University of Waterloo came from a position now that, given many, many great successes, now we have a center in astrophysics that we were able to attract some of the best scholars from around the world, say that this is where I'm going to establish my center of excellence in astrophysics. And again, we celebrated the opening of this. It took us a little time, right from the concept to actual physical structure to open our field house. This was not just to add another building to our campus. This was not to just provide a place for our teams to practice throughout the winter. Yes, but the bigger idea was coming from either well-being to student mental health, our engagement and connection with our community, that we have a fabulous structure out there. And as many times I sneaked in there late in the evening, wearing all kinds of camouflage gear that nobody would know, and I was delighted to see how well the place is being used. I hear from some of my colleagues who are kind enough to stop me and tell me that their students are telling them how many other fellow students they're meeting there, and after a very long day of study and classes, whether it's at 10 or 11 in the evening, they could go there and run into some people and have a quick, pickup game. And it is a kind of thing that brings our community together. So it's not just a building, it is a glue. I hope that will be even stronger, bringing people together. We were very proud opening our student center, Needles Hall. Needles Hall, have I shared this with you? My first year here, I was walking. I used to get lost a lot on campus because, you know the reason. We are awash with signage and, everywhere. It's getting much better, and it's going to get a lot better. We'll be very, very proud. But those days, and I would go to a dean's office and due process. I would get lost. Somebody will say, "Are you lost?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm just exploring." But then you run into places. So one day I was coming back to Needles Hall, and somebody said, "You're in which building?" I said, "Needles Hall." "You know what we call Needles Hall?" I said, "No idea." "Oh, it's called the Needless Hell." Okay. This completely negates the opposite direction of that expression. The student center, we see it's a one-stop shopping center for our students, and I'm so delighted to see a tremendous level of service being provided to our students from there. And it took a lot of people, Chris and many others, to see that's happening, but it is there, and our students really, really enjoy and benefit from using it. Just recently, was it last week? Week before, Marilyn, was it last week? Yes, last week. gets fuggy after 2 days, you know. We celebrated something spectacular at the University of Waterloo. We had to go to Toronto, actually, to get our gold. Should have brought it. Oh, it's here. Yeah. Somebody reads my mind. So this is what we got in Toronto. There are so many people involved in this, but Marilyn, can you just stand up for us? This is heavy. It's mostly plexiglass. It's not gold. But it means a lot to us because hundreds and hundreds of people work very hard to bring very important aspects of University of Waterloo's commitment to excellence, demonstrate our excellence in innovation and well-being. And for that, we are the first university in this country that was acknowledged as such with a gold medal. It's not a medal, but gold medal. So this is, again, a very important acknowledgement because it goes to the entire University of Waterloo community. It's not just HR, it's not just the President's office, it is the entire University of Waterloo community is acknowledged for this brilliant award. Our environmental sustainability actions. There are a number of things happening. I'm just going to wait for you to open it up and come forward, please, so everybody can see this. We are constantly reminded of our big climate crisis, climate change, what's happening around the world, and we see evidence of it every day. And we are asked to take significant, serious actions. We are taking those actions. And the first one is, of course, what we are doing in our 2-year plan. There are a number of good actions and recommendations. There is a sustainability aspect of it, at what has happened at the University of Waterloo and what should happen. And we will achieve those through active, engaging dialogues, and we are committed to do that. Tomorrow, I will also receive the Climate Action Plan from Jean and Dennis and Matt, and there's a lot in it, and I'm looking forward to receiving the plan, and then there will be more conversations taking place after that. Student mental health, that our entire campus community, going back a couple of years, you gathered around. We were going through really very difficult times in terms of our students' mental health, well-being, compounded by a number of suicides by our students. I have never seen so well-together community, not just in our campus community, but also the community outside the university. They got together and said, we can just sit here and tell the world what we are doing today, but we all understand that what we are doing today obviously is not enough. We need to do more. We need to do things differently, and I'm grateful that so many of you came forward and said, we want to be part of this. As a result, we have come up with a number of very important recommendations. I'm very proud to say that many of those recommendations have been implemented or in the process of being implemented. There is more to do, and never once myself or none of my colleagues here will sit back and say that, yes, we think we have done enough on student mental health or mental health on campus in general. There are so many other aspects that we don't understand. There are so many aspects that we really need. We're in need of thinking differently and bring in solutions that are so consistent with who we are, our innovative culture, and also provide leadership. And that's the direction we're heading. I don't know if John Hurdy's is here. I thought I saw John. Did I see John Hurdy's here? He is not. I'm grateful for him and his committee, and Walter, Chris, everybody, in making the University of Waterloo so committed to this. My monitor is dead, so I don't know where I am, but I could look back. Okay. Another extremely important issue for us and some awareness for us are our commitment to indigenization. That is something that the University of Waterloo started at a very, very almost non-existing place. We are grateful that St. Paul's University was providing a university-wide awareness, but we have grown so much, so big, including other affiliated institutions, that the University of Waterloo had to take a responsible role in bringing this forward as a very important, actionable item for us. And I'm so glad that we have made significant progress. I will come back to you later on, but shortly, with explaining or communicating what further progress we made and where we are going there together with our communities. This will be a fast one. This is our little report card. Just look at it quickly and say that, okay, good, A+, but you have to work harder. So, and I want to come back to, in my few minutes remaining, to the strategic planning process. You've all seen it, but I've never had a chance again to address a group of such magnitude that I'm very proud, together with my colleagues here, everybody, hundreds and hundreds of people worked very hard in bringing this strategic plan to its final point, which got approved by the Board of Governors just recently. The process by which, however, this strategic plan came to life, is a lot more important to me. Many institutions have great strategic plans. The greatness of our strategic plan resides in the fact that you all made it happen. You all have the piece in there. When you have the plan, say that, okay, I know I did something there. I know this part is there because I was involved. Engagement was spectacular. And this, again, is so congruent with who we are and how we see our institution and how we see our institution advancing to the future. As a result, we have a strategic plan. Again, you have all these, but that we boiled it down to 7 signature commitments that are completely connected to the very basic, very nature of this institution, to our DNA, but they are also so much connected to the future. In doing so, we understand that we need to put a magnifying glasses sometimes use a telescope, sometimes use a microscope, but to understand what teaching and learning and this whole process is all about, and what it is that we can, as University of Waterloo, come up with new ideas, new initiatives, new directions, so that our students here, they will look into themselves and say, well, I'm going to get my degree here at the University of Waterloo, but that's not the reason or sole reason why I came here. Came here because this place provides me with an enormous leadership opportunities. This place provides me with an enormous opportunity to differentiate myself among millions of other students. And that's why we want to look at it from a very different perspective. Many of these signature commitments are there. At the same time, this is an institution where we always said that there are no walls between what happens in our undergraduate classes, what happens in our graduate classes and laboratories and research and scholarship. They're all put together. When you put all of them together and connect them with a purpose, connect them with what is this all about? What are we going to do with all these? On one hand, we can say that we are very much committed, the kind of curiosity-driven scholarship and research, like the black hole example. At the same time, we can say, look, we can come up with solutions here that every person in this country and around the world could use and have a better quality of life. So You put those together and then you say, hey, wait a second. You can't do any of these if you do not acknowledge the people, our communities, that they're going to make it happen. You have to work as hard as with the other two to make sure that everybody belongs in here. Doesn't matter which directions, where they came from, everybody is here, and this is our community, this is our family. You have to acknowledge, you cannot take it for granted, and we need to work tirelessly to make sure that engagement happens and their both professional and personal growth also happens here. So we put all of those together. I believe we have a brilliantly innovative new strategic plan that we need to bring it to the earth. This is, I'm sure you can all read all the names, and this is just many names there. If your name is not there, it is there. There are several layers underneath, and will come when we make this three-dimensional, it will be much better. But this is my great big thanks to everybody, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who worked tirelessly, right from our white papers to vision paper and everything until the last minute. Of course, it's not over. It is not over at all. This is where the fun begins, that we make these things happen, we implement them, and Provost Jim Rush and our deans and other vice presidents, everybody now, we are even busier making sure that we're going to be able to implement this, meet our targets and deadlines, because it's important to the university. Having said all of these, I also remind myself, and together again with my colleagues, that we have a strategic plan. We are very much attached, focused. We are committed to delivering it. But we should also pay attention, specific attention to some areas that, just a small example, for our students. Their experience is very important. We keep talking about their experience, not just academic experience, their personal experience, they're committed here, and what role do we play? I still remember this story that I shared with some of you earlier on. The staff member said when she was at the library, she saw a writing by a student saying that I feel so alone, and started communicating, left another note, no, you're not alone. We're with you. And this thing, without knowing each other, this communication started going back and forth. And then one day the student said, I was really, really depressed. I did feel alone. And this person, still I haven't met because they kept it that way, almost saved my life. Brought, connectivity to my being, to not just to the institution, but to life. So it's just one of hundreds and thousands of examples that are happening here. We need to make sure that our student experience is really not just in one direction. It's multifaceted, multidimensional, and it means something to everything we do. Student mental health, as grateful as I am for a lot of people working on this, there is more work to do. There is more work to do. The number of students who reach out to us and say, well, I wouldn't be here had it not been for the help I received here, but please don't think that it's over. There is more, and we need to be a lot more supportive. We have fabulous graduate students coming from all around the world. They are establishing their research academic careers here, and we need to understand that they have many, many needs from family, and many of them, they have young families, many of them. They will have mental health issues. They will have financial issues. They will have issues with their supervisors. So many, many things that I believe still will be at the forefront. We tried to bring them under various aspects of strategic plan, but these are some of the specific things that it takes a little extra time, my day and my colleagues, and I'm not going to talk about some of the financial challenges or other challenges that we have from time to time, but I'm also so pleased to tell you that despite all of these, we never lose our focus. We continue replacing all retirements and renewal positions, and on top of that added 55 new faculty positions along with many other staff positions. We're going to keep doing this. I think I well exceeded my 20 minutes. Nobody threw or cut me off, but it's impossible sometimes to stop when you have so much to tell. But I'm going to stop here because we will have a conversation. You have some questions. Let me thank you again. It's great to have all of you here, and I can't thank you enough for your commitment and for your engagement. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Feridun, for those opening remarks. It has been quite the year of achieving some major milestones, and yet, as you pointed out, we have much to anticipate in the coming year. So look forward now to a discussion with those of you in the room and those who are joining via live stream. Perhaps I can just remind you and all of us how we're going to carry out this question and answer session. We're very happy to hear from those of you in the room who would like to ask a question. I would just remind you that we have 3 or 4 individuals who are carrying microphones. Please wait until they reach you so that everyone in the room and also those that are listening on the live stream can hear both the question and the answer. We're also receiving questions over our digital and social channels. You can send a question on Twitter using the hashtag UWTH. And those of you watching the live stream, you can submit a question in the comment box on the right side of the screen. We also have some questions that were shared in advance, and I should let you know that as an indication of the interest in the dialogue and discussion today, as of the latest count, we had 60 questions submitted in advance. So we will obviously try to get to as many as possible, but you can understand it won't be possible to answer every single question. We have aggregated some of those questions to a few topics, which we will attempt to cover over the course of the town hall. Make sense? All right. Let's get this show on the road then. Feridun, let me start with this question. You've spoken to us about the new strategic plan, the 2020-2025 plan, and it's been obvious since we started the process over a year ago that you were firmly committed to ensuring that there was more engagement and that there was more open forums for all of us to be engaged. Can you just tell us a little bit about why that was so important for you and for the university?
Yeah. I tried to touch on it when I was talking about the strategic plan. I can't imagine, not even for 1 second, having a strategic plan that doesn't belong to our community. Otherwise, there are some good textbook examples of people, staying a couple of weeks in their offices and coming out with a really great strategic plan, never saw the day of light because nobody just bought into it, nobody touched it. It's not just for that perspective. Look at this. We have so many brilliant people. Not only are they brilliant, but they are so engaged. The University of Waterloo, its students, its future lives in their hearts and in their brains. This is a fantastic mind. I'm not being opportunistic here. It's a fact of life, but at the same time, to be able to connect this to the end point that we create a strategic plan together. Your contributions are not just, you just showed up at consultation sessions and listened to myself or Jim or others. You were the main speakers, you were the main contributors, and we benefit immensely. We have a great strategic plan because what you contributed into that strategic plan. So, Sandra, I wouldn't think of it even for a minute to do it in any other way. This is the right way to do it. This is the normal way to do it. That's why we did it.
Thanks, Feridun. Let me ask a second question, and then we'll turn it to the audience so you can think of what your questions may be. Feridun, last year you signed the Okanagan Charter, a collaborative framework to promote the health and wellness of not just our students, but the broader campus community. Can you just spend a minute speaking to the significance of the charter and what it means for our future actions?
Yeah. Again, this came out of Committee on Student Mental Health, and I was delighted first to be made aware of that. I confess, we didn't know much about it, but the more we figured out, we found out about it, and the more we understood how important it will be. It brings a lens in front of our eyes on everything and anything we do at the university from a student mental health and student well-being perspective. So it is a beacon for the institution, or for many institutions, to have such an important beacon helping us either bringing policies forward or decisions forward, that you have that awareness and beacon. So that's the significance of having signed that charter, and it is already helping us in more than one way.
Absolutely, and it's also great to have that network of other institutions
Absolutely.
who are setting best and better practices that we can learn from. So I'm looking across the audience here in Fed Hall and looking for any hands that are raised. And I see one. Okay, yes, all right, on the far side. Do you have the microphone? Please feel free to stand up so we can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, so the University of Waterloo is doing a lot of good things to promote sustainability and to promote action on climate on campus. We have the biggest environment faculty in Canada, and the university runs a bunch of different campaigns to promote climate awareness. And we really do have an image of an incredibly innovative university in that area. So I just wanted to ask, how do you reconcile our image as a leader in climate action with the fact that we still have millions of dollars invested in fossil fuels? When over 130 schools, including Laval University and Concordia and University of Quebec at Montreal, have already divested.
Thanks very much for your question. Ferdinand, can you
I will start. I think this is an open conversation. I thank you again for bringing this forward. We started this conversation some time ago, and the university made a very clear statement that we are going to look into this. But this is it's not a decision that I can make in my office. It is not a decision that any individual offices can make, because it involves part of our investment, our pension fund. And there are many other people, like 4,700 pensioners, who have a say in there. So this is a work in progress. It came down to a much smaller number. Is this where I would personally like to be at? Not. But there are a lot of complexities. Our commitment was that we will continue working on this. This is not the final position of the university, and we will continue making progress. We will fulfill that commitment, that promise. It is, sometimes I admit, we take one step forward, take two steps back because of the complexity of issue. I hope one day we could say that, look, it's down to zero, but in there, we were faced with complexities like, here is a fossil fuel company, but it's one of the largest solar energy research facilities at the same time. How do you differentiate those? So I am not using as defending where we are. Where we are is much, much better than where we were before, and hopefully we will get to a place which will be better. So I can't give you a magic answer. All I'm telling you that the University of Waterloo, myself, my administration, our board, we are not just aware, we are very much committed to making sure that a climate action plan is a very active, very workable plan, that the University of Waterloo will make significant contributions towards that. Dennis or Jean, do you want to add anything further? Have I left anything out?
There's Dennis. Dennis, can we get a mic to the second row? Thank you.
I'd just say that, as Ferdinand said, there's been a long process to even get where we are here today. We had a responsible investing working group. That went on for 2 years. There was a lot of consultation. There's lots of differences of opinion on the topic, and it's weighing that fiduciary responsibility to the account holders that depend on funds like pensions and the endowments against some of the crises that the world is facing. And so, although the total investment of $68 million in the fossil-free 200, or they identified 200 fossil companies, seems a lot. It's on a $2 billion investment. So it's Canada, when you're invested in Canada, Canada is a large energy sector in its country, and so when you take an investment position in Canada, you naturally end up with some energy companies. And so we give our managers full discretion on the funds. We don't tell them what stocks to pick, but they're all responsible to contribute and participate in ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance investing. And over time, as the managers weigh the risks, they too will depart from some of those positions.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm scanning the room and I don't see any arms, any signals. I do see questions come in either in advance or via social today. And it includes an acronym, and everyone assumes I know what the acronym is, and happily I do. It's about the new SMAs in the province of Ontario, Strategic Mandate Agreements. The question is, how is Waterloo approaching the definition of metrics, which are performance metrics, required by the Government of Ontario for the new SMA, the SMA 3?
This is our third SMA. We are still in doing the second one. SMA 3 is supposed to be different, more agile by bringing the number of metrics that they use in assessing universities' performance, and from 3 funding buckets to give a little bit more prominence to another non-tuition, non-undergraduate student number 1, for which they simplify the number of metrics, but they give us an opportunity to define what they are. I'm going to hand it over to Jim, who is leading the SMA process at the University of Waterloo, to tell us how we are reaching that. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, that's essentially the high-level overview, the change in buckets from strictly enrollment-based funding into a larger fraction in what's called performance-based funding. And it's that bucket that will eventually be about 66% of the grant portion only of the university's enrollment-based income that will be defined by the metrics that Ferrodin alluded to. So one of the things in the transition from SMA 2 to SMA 3 was a reduction in the total number of metrics to 10, and they're prescribed by the MCU. So in terms of the question that was about how do we come up with targets or define targets, for the most part, they tell us what they are, and they tell us what the metrics are. There are 2 institutional specific metrics where we have some latitude to define what it means in a University of Waterloo context. And then the other component of it is once the 10 metrics are all in place over a 3-year implementation period, is that there is a latitude for the universities to define the weighting of each metric between a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 25%. So there is an ability for a university to align its complexion and its strategy for moving into the future with the weightings of the metrics as well. I hope that addresses the elements of the question. In addition to those, there are some non-performance metrics that we're going to be required to report on faculty workloads and faculty salaries, and then that along with the enrollment component of the SMA, which again is set by the province, by MCU. That completes most of the data set that will be part of that package that will be in place starting next fiscal year.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks,
Just
Jim.
before that, some of you may notice that Jim used an acronym of MCU. It stands for Ministry of Colleges and Universities. It used to be MTCU. There was a training component. Now it's taken out and given to a different ministry. So as of a couple of weeks ago, right, Rob? The ministry is only for colleges and universities.
Interesting.
This is a footnote.
Absolutely. Well, I have one to add as well, if I may. And that is, well, I'm just scanning the room. For the first time, one of the measures will be around economic impact of the university. And we like to think that Waterloo probably has one of the most visible impacts on the Ontario and Canadian economy. And so we'll be looking forward to leveraging and demonstrating and making that impact more visible. So we're going to give one more shout out to the room before I go back to the social screens here. Okay, you're just warming up, I can tell. The question is this, as it relates to the strategic plan. What are the plans and options to develop healthcare and medicine facilities? Can we expect a medical school at the university? I know you've never heard that question before.
So my past, I think this is the 10th in different shape or form, annual town hall doing. This has been consistent. It comes up at every town hall meeting. Parking stopped. But med school comes up. The short answer is it's not in our next 5-year strategic plan to have a medical school, but we very much understand the importance of and the future of healthcare in general and medicine to be specific. So as I just sailed through our signature commitments, but there is a broader part of it is interdisciplinarity, bringing various disciplines together, and many aspects of whether it is a broader healthcare or specifically, medicine related, either teaching and learning or research scholarship. We want to elevate it to a level where the social, technological, and health/medical aspects of what we may foresee as a future medical school can come together. So this is a very specific example of we're going to do so many things within the domain, realm of interdisciplinarity, but this is something that is ripe, that is urgent, and that will address so many things from the society's broader perspective to have technologies. I just gave you an example of colleagues in mathematics doing a computational model of a human kidney. Prior to that, a group of Waterloo entrepreneurs came up with an artificial kidney. We have researchers using artificial intelligence, using data sciences, many other things, bringing so many disciplines together. At the end, there will be a different definition of what we call today's traditional medicine. We are very much connected to that, but right now, will we add another traditional school of medicine so that especially in this fabulous funding environment? No, not in the next 5 years at least.
Thank you, Feridun. Well, remember, we have 60 questions that were submitted in advance, so that's your challenge, if anybody wants to.
I'm sure there will be somebody. See, there's a hand right there, right by the microphone.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Well, is this working? Speaking of the fabulous funding environment, Feridun, I'm curious, what role do you see philanthropy playing in making this strategic plan a reality?
Thank you. A huge role. This is part of, again, our ongoing excitement, because this is the first time, actually, parallel to our strategic plan, we are entering into a capital campaign planning. We have actually completed a big chunk of that planning. We are working on how, and it has legs, it has shoes, and how fast and how far it's going to run. So very much so. A lot of big ambitions in our strategic plan, and I admit, I wouldn't be here talking confidently about our strategic plan if it weren't ambitious, if it weren't bold, if it wasn't connected with our past, but very much if it wasn't connected to the future, I wouldn't be talking about it. It is a big part of it, however, will rely on real resources. And we are going for the entire spectrum, 360, maximizing where those resources will come from. Philanthropy, fundraising is a significant part of this. And I am very confident, together with Joanne and many of our colleagues, deans, that this university has so much to offer to our country and to the world that there will be many, many people who will be willing to and be excited about the cases we will present, the stories we will share with them. So this is a very important part of putting our strategic plan in reality. Thank you for asking the question. We will be very busy, and I bought new shoes because we will be on the road all the time asking for money.
Thanks, Feridun. I'm going to turn to a question that has come up on multiple occasions, both via email and on Twitter this morning, and it involves international student fees. So the question is about the relatively high cost of international student tuition, and the questions are asking, given the broader context of tuition income and the university's operating budgets, can you say something about why international fees for some programs are rising and what supports are in place to support this growing population?
Thank you. It's a complex question. The answer is, however, straightforward, but it has many elements. Part of it is the competition, part of it is market, but good part of it is our commitment to provide every single student here at the University of Waterloo with the highest quality educational and personal experience. Our non-international or domestic students, there is, of course, funding for each student in addition to their tuition. We call it the grant. We don't have this for international students, so we have to offset that part. And when we are doing this, however, we also need to do this within, international standards. And sometimes some programs require a lot more resources, either in form of faculty hiring or physical laboratory resources, don't know. And there is a variance among international fees. But all of these, of course, they go back into students. For international fees, differential fees specifically, many of our offices, together with Ian Rollins and Chris and Jeff, they are working together to make sure that we understand very specific and special needs and challenges of our international students. It is not easy to be away from your natural environment, thousands of miles away, in a place that is, the climate is different, the language is different from your mother tongue, culture is different, and all of those. And how do we provide a fabulously supporting, warm environment that is geared towards personal and academic success of the university? So we will be unrolling specifically some plans as to how, in addition to the broader support to all of our students, how do we support our international students specifically? One example I should give, I'm extremely proud that as soon as we were made aware of it last year, Chris and Housing, they went ahead. The question was, what are you going to do with all the international students who have to leave residences before Christmas because places shut down, all residences are vacated? They opened one residence that all international students could stay there, those who either wouldn't go home or couldn't go home, and there was a place on campus for them. So there will be many, many more. A part of that international fee will go towards supporting international students. I gave a longer answer.
Oh, that's very important. It's a great answer. Okay, I see
Here's
a hand.
John Thompson here.
John, can you wait for the microphone? It's on its way.
Thank you, and thank you, Feridun, for your comments this morning. Very enlightening, very exciting. As I look at the strategic plan, and as I reflect on the reputation that the University of Waterloo has, having been here for a very long time myself, and as I do so from the perspective of having been involved in, I would say, mainly fundamental research over a good many years, the brand that the University of Waterloo has is one of commercialization, innovation, and indeed one of the main themes that is identified is that the University of Waterloo be, I forget the exact wording, but a hub, an international hub for commercialization of research. I know from my own discussions with you that you value basic research and fundamental research very deeply. And I wonder if you could share some of your thoughts on the importance of fundamental research, curiosity-driven research, to this university in light of its brand. How are these two going to continue to work in concert to make our university a great place?
Thank you, John. I think, just allow me just start from one perspective, that regardless of how we define our research and scholarship, curiosity is the critical. It is the main ingredient. You have to be curious about something, whether you're applying to something or you really don't care, but you are so curious about this. Again, I'll go back to the black hole. I go back to Donna Strickland's research. She was extremely, extremely curious about how she could just jam-pack all the power to a pulse, laser pulse. Didn't think about what it will be used for. Didn't even cross her mind laser eye surgery while she was doing this. This is what I want everybody to feel, that I am here. It's so fabulous to be in an environment that I am free. There is no pressure on me. There is no power over me telling me, no, I should do it this way or that way. I'm in a university environment and I'm entitled to, this is my right to exercise my free thinking. And free thinking is absolutely needed for that curiosity to deepen. So this is basic. This is our starting point. You have a choice to continue doing that and disseminate it in whichever way you want. There is no other way that I could say that, no, we shouldn't be doing it. At the same time, there are many of our colleagues who will say that, I believe I can take it from here and take it somewhere and make it a commercializable product. We are proud of being able to do this, and this is the uniqueness of our institution, that these two can happen at the same time, not at the expense of each other. And to be able to do this, you have to have this free, curiosity-based environment, without which I don't think that we can even talk about commercialization. You have to have a starting point. This is where we are starting. This is where our institution is. But given all the fabulous examples that come out of this university, we understand the connection between who we are, where our country is, and every person. This is somewhere that we believe every citizen has a right for free expression, our quality of life, and prosperity is important. For that prosperity, we also need to make sure that we are doing well in various areas. So if I go back and say, well, John, we are committed tremendously to both, and it's up to our colleagues, faculty members, to however they want to wish it, but there is no discrimination against curiosity-based research.
Thank you, Feridun. Any other questions in the room? Only 58 to go here. Okay, oh, I see a hand. Yes.
Brian Tolson.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for doing this again, Feridun. I'm just wondering, given your thoughtful territorial acknowledgement and the UW's indigenization strategy, I'm just wondering if there's plans for 2020 to offer Indigenous students at the University of Waterloo scholarships or tuition benefits. I ask that knowing that, or my understanding is that currently there is no scholarships for Indigenous students entering Waterloo.
Brian, there are bits and pieces, and last year we for example, brought significant change at the university, so that application process will be a lot better and will be a financial burden. Instead of saying that, okay, we're going to do this, and then lay back. We want to bring a much broader long-term plan in place that will address all of these things that you're talking about. But my priority is for the University of Waterloo and our affiliated institutions to be able to say that we have a comprehensive, long-term strategy plan moving this institution forward, and we put this place together with our communities. It is for the people who are actually involved and will be affected by this. So many of the things that you're saying, they are part of this. We can just put one in place and not have the other connecting ones in place. It will not be complete, but I am very sure, confident that this year, like in the calendar year even, 2020, there will be significant new, very positive developments that the issues you mentioned will be incorporated and will make very good progress.
Thank you. So we do have a question that's coming in through the live stream this morning, and it relates to a question about the number of Waterloo students who go on to careers internationally, specifically the United States. Some places, we're not sure what those places are, have reported very high numbers of our students leaving the country. Is this a worry? Is it real, and is it a worry?
Is it factual? Yes. Is it like very large and high numbers? I don't think so. Is it a worry? No. Should we turn a blind eye to it? No. If at convocation, you know, myself, Chancellor, and the Provost, we congratulate our students and we ask them about their plans. Depending on the program they're graduating, quite a few of them will say, I'm going to California, I'm going to Seattle, and once I think I made a joke at one convocation, I said, I wonder how California could survive without University of Waterloo graduates, and I guess it went viral, but it's fact. But if you extrapolate it over a longer period, you will see that many of those graduates, they come back. They come back with more experience, better network, and better initiatives. And we have about, Sandra, 78 or 80% of them back here. If you do it over a 10-year period, they are back here in Ontario.
It's actually better than that, yeah.
Yeah, so is it a concern? We tell our students that go and do whatever you want, but make sure that your roots are here, you can come back, and it's happening. Would any of my Canada colleagues would like to comment? Pearl or anybody else? I mean, this is you don't have to, but I believe this is, I don't lose sleep over, but we also want to make sure that the talent needs here in Canada and Ontario are also being met. And I have not heard anybody saying that because they're going to XYZ place, I don't have access to your graduates. I haven't heard that kind of complaints. Going back to the philanthropic question, we want them to go wherever they want. We want them to be very successful because I want to visit them, and and I will want them to help us. Is this okay?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think we can say that the brain gain is healthy, and we're actually, working to make sure that students and graduates understand the economic opportunities around the globe, but also here at home in Canada. And I think the number when I asked recently was in the range of 80 to 85% across all alumni over time reside or work in Canada, and that's a very healthy brain gain for Canada. In fact, the next question is about internationalization. So there's the other side of that coin of the conversation. As we continue to internationalize, how do we, at the same time, ensure we have an impact both within our community and in the region of Waterloo and abroad with the wider world? How do we balance these two objectives?
this is the fantastic place we are in. We so much belong to this community. We really do. This is the community that envisioned this university, how it will come to being and how it will grow. And our roots are here in this community. But at the same time, we are so well connected with the whole world. That's why internationalization as a whole, and it's not just on the form of one or two things, but it's a much broader perspective, is so important for us to be part of a global network of institutions, to be part of a global network of thought leaders, to be part of global so many things that there are so many tunnels or bridges. I shouldn't use tunnel. Bridges are always better. You can see many fantastic things at the same time that are connecting our region to the world. At the same time, the most common, of course, are students going abroad, students coming here. And related to the previous question, many of those students, they choose to stay here in Canada and be part of our intellectual, treasure and, contribute. So this is the part of the reason Ian and his colleagues are in the process of putting together an internationalization strategy that will involve students, faculty, postdocs, our companies, being network of various institutions that we believe together we are a lot more powerful dealing with some global challenges, being the climate, to food, to water, to health, and AI, prosperity, ethics. So it is impossible for us to say that we are great in this community, we will stay in this community, and if the world wants to, they can come and see us. No, we have to get out, we have to be part of that world, and this is happening at the same time.
Excellent. We have time for about 2 or 3 more questions this morning.
There's one right there.
I do see a hand in the room. Yes, please, Meryl, thank you.
So thank you for your presentation. It was wonderful to know the detail about University of
Do you mind
Waterloo.
standing up and ask a question, please? Thank you.
I have a question about financial challenges faced by the students, especially, as you know, OSAP, which was more grant portion and less loan portion until last year. It has changed, it has almost reversed. Maybe if it was 60-40, then it has changed to 40-60. Okay, or other way around. So is there any, a plan for the university? Of course, you have touched upon scholarship and bursaries. So is there any plan to address those kind of things, especially people who are affected by OSAP grant and loan portion?
Thank you. There are, but I'm going to look at Chris. Can I ask you, and is this specifically for graduate students? If it is, I'm going to ask Jeff to comment. Why don't you do that, Jeff?
And we have a mic on its way, Jeff.
Well, thanks very much for your question. I can tell you that the university, through my office, with help from IAP, has just done a holistic and systematic look at funding for graduate students. And I'll just remind our colleagues that for our international doctoral students, we have the International Doctoral Student Award that aims to offset the international tuition differential in full for our PhD candidates. And we continue to support our master's students with competitive awards for tuition offset that helps to balance international tuition versus domestic tuition. But the data that we have, and of course we're always eager to support our students in the very best way that we can, but the data that we have suggests that compared to our peers, the university is very well positioned for the financial support that it's able to provide. And in addition to the scholarship fundings that we have minimum funding requirements for both our PhD candidates and in many of our faculties for our master's students. So we're always eager to do better. We're always eager to look at individual cases, and for those there are awards that my office has the good fortune to manage and support our students. But we're always happy to have the conversation about graduate student funding and to see how we can best position ourselves.
Thank you, Jeff. Does that help? Yes?
You also have plans for support postdoctoral students as well.
Thank you. keep in mind that there is an opportunity, if there's follow-up questions or questions you want to ask one-on-one, all of us, hopefully all of us, are staying to enjoy the lunch. We can always follow up on some of these items after the formal Q&A. I'm scanning the room and I see a hand on my left and your right. Yes, here's a mic.
Mike?
Here's a mic, Mike.
Hi. When I was an undergraduate, this room was a bar. The bomb shelter is shut down, and it may seem trivial, but social spaces are important for student satisfaction. And some of the things that have been brought up is, you know, things that the university is trying to improve. And frankly, it's important for staff to have some place to go to that's interesting. Are there any plans for new social spaces?
Yes, two things. It's interesting, Mike, that just before it started, Chris and I were talking about this place, Fed Hall, and how well it was being used now as opposed to what was happening here earlier. So it's great to have meeting places like this. But as you know, we have the SLC project, which it should have been completed, I think, by now, but for reasons completely beyond our control, it's delayed, but it's going to get there. That's going to provide us with more social space. I believe bomb shelter, they may rename it, but there are plans to reopen it. So there are, as far as I'm concerned, social places. And to me, there will be no drinking involved, but the field house is a great social place. You can meet a lot of people. Chris, can I turn it over to you to add if there's anything else to add for mainly student social space, but also from a broader perspective?
I think, Ferdinand, you've covered some of the larger initiatives. What I'd add to that is that as the campus continues to expand, more buildings, especially in the faculties, a lot of that social space and hangout space for students is being built locally in those faculties too. As you think about the buildings that have opened in the last little while, it's a real component to that. We've also tried over the last strategic plan to invest in a prioritized way around campus in existing spaces to bring those spaces up, you know, empty hallways and alcoves and that kind of thing, where we can add lounge seating and electrical and opportunities for students just to be in a comfortable space where they can socialize or study in between classes when they don't have that much time.
Thank you. Okay, time for two more questions. I definitely have one queued up here. I see a hand over there. Let's go there.
Tomorrow, the university is releasing its Climate and Energy Action Plan. In it, does the university commit to slashing emissions in line with the IPCC's 2030 targets?
Thank you.
I want to correct it. We are not releasing it. I'm receiving it. So I have not had a chance to review it. So I can. The only thing I can say that we will have further conversations that I will be able to answer your question with more confidence, but I have to receive it first. So we're not releasing it. I'm only receiving it.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see a question here about maybe it's fitting to wrap up with a question about the strategic plan. It's part of where we started this morning's discussion. Ferdinand, what steps are being taken to ensure that resource allocation via the Waterloo budget model aligns with our new strategic plan?
It's absolutely a must, and we will do this as we are developing our implementation plan. Every implementable action will be linked to resource allocation, and that's the reason why the provost is leading the implementation process as well as linking it with budget allocations. We will not consider any of these things as strategic if they're not properly aligned with resources. So
absolutely, very good.
That's a parallel process.
Thank you. Well, unfortunately, the time for our formal discussion is wrapping up. But as I mentioned, we invite you all to linger and enjoy lunch. Just a few comments to wrap up. I think it's safe to say that, Ferdinand, this has been a record-breaking event in terms of people in the room, 350 in the room, 300 on live stream. We had lots of interest in questions and dialogue, so thank you, Ferritin, for being so open and responsive to the conversation today. And clearly the range of questions demonstrates how committed, passionate, and interested you are, and we are all are in the future of this university. Let me just say that we will make every effort to respond via the President's Town Hall website with answers to the questions we didn't get to today, so stay tuned for that. You may have noticed, for those of you in the room, the digital screens at the back of Fed Hall. There's more information on the strategic plan, and there's more information on the Excellence Canada Gold certification. There's also quite a roster of thank yous that the screens will be rolling through, so have a look to see if you're mentioned in those credits. The lunch is being served in the back two rooms. You will find it hard to miss the special dessert, the cupcakes that are frosted in a special gold decoration to commemorate the gold certification with Excellence Canada. So if it's helpful, you can form two lines as you approach the lunch. We have a good crowd today, which means you'll have lots of opportunity for conversation as you queue up for that lunch. So listen, let me just say thank you, Ferritin. It's been my pleasure to help you host this morning. Thanks to the audience, and for those of you joining us, again, a record audience on live stream, we very much appreciate it. Please enjoy lunch and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.